I acknowledge and call to the spirits of the east, to the hawk of dawn, and the blackbirds and myriad other songbirds that sing forth from the gardens of Mile End and Bow and Stratford. May their inspiring words lift my heart and enliven my spirit. Spirits of water, to the fish and geese and birds of Regent's Canal, just out of sight of my front door. May the harmony of these lands be complete.
It's not always easy to lead the most sustainable life in the modern world and to live in a low impact kind of way. Even though it's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world to do by ourselves, what ritual could help to do is to change that so that everyone in society, everyone is kind of reading from the same hymn sheet. The significance of pilgrimage within my practice is that it's a way of getting to know the landscape in a very intimate way, taking the time to walk, to be within it and to move through it in a very slow and careful way. The landscape is one of the primary sources of access to truth within Druidry. It's the land that sort of guides us and provides us with a sense of meaning and purpose and a sense of who we are and what life is all about. And so by being in the landscape particularly for an extended period of time, you're able to access those sorts of qualities and those sorts of lessons. And you can also learn about what your responsibilities are. I hope it goes well, and I hope in future years more people come. Just because I think it's such a special landscape to me, and it's such a special, I feel like there's this whole symphony out there, and a lot of people just don't even know where their concert is.
Max, what style of good pub you like down near here? Probably not the wall pack. The leather exchange? Pop straight down from the left. No, I don't think that.
When you take people out to places like this and do this sort of work, the land responds and people respond in turn, so you get this kind of dialogue that emerges between people and place. Some of the land I know quite well, so particularly around the White Horse of Uffington, it's a place that I've camped many times, that I've been with my community, so I'd quite like to do something specific there to honour that. And the same with the Thames. I grew up just a couple of miles away from the river, so it's a place I know well.
Yeah, out in the countryside, isn't it? It's in a house of Avebury, can't see the country. Bit not more. I mean, London just gets really hectic and busy, and close, dirty, and I think going out into the trees and the forest, out in the open air, just sort of like offers a little bit of revitalisation, I believe would be the term. John Bardick on it.
I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this for like months. The highest chance of rain is right now.
Yeah.
And then it just goes down, and then the temperature's going to go up tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to be getting sunburn. We have just offered some pieces of mistletoe to the Thames. Mistletoe symbolises healing within the Druidic tradition. Obviously the Thames is under a lot of pressure in terms of pollution. You can see from all this green colour that it's actually quite eutrophicated as a river. And so we've offered healing and asked for blessings in return. This water is going to carry with us through the rest of our journey and offer to the stones of Avebury at the end. And so that would act as a kind of golden thread linking together this river here and the stones there. Hail all beings who live in this landscape. My name is Jonathan Woolley, born of the Chilterns across the Thames. I come here to Avebury with my friends and to seek wisdom from you all and to bring blessings here.
1,800 years ago, there would have been a huge sort of complex. What they found is all these scoops out of the chalk, these big scrapes out of it, that they think look like where trees grew. So these specially planted trees. So essentially within the temple enclosure itself, there would have been a whole bunch of trees, like a grove of trees. So that's kind of evidence of people almost 2,000 years ago sort of revering trees and revering sacred groves, and that continuing on after the Romans arrived. I just think it's kind of cool coming to these places and kind of realising that, you know, even beneath what is essentially a fucking corner of like two fields on quite a scenic hill in the middle of Oxfordshire, with a power station over there and main roads just over the hill. There's this massive sacred landscape that's just there under our feet. I wanted to come and do a postdoc on Druids. Oh, I was like, really? And so I was just like, yes, we've dealt on the landscape and on neolithic monuments and things like that.
Yeah, she was like,
I think it's going to be good to like do it with a bit further.
I am starting to feel a bit like we've been walking all day. Like I haven't been outside of London in probably a year or so. So I just thought I'd get out into the countryside and enjoy the surroundings and sort of like take everything in. Get some fresh air in the lungs for once. But I am ready to either sit down or lie down. These are the things I'm ready to do.
Is this like an entrance way?
yeah.
But I mean, it's obviously not been used.
Sorry?
It's obviously not been used in a while, is it?
No, nothing to worry about. I'll tell you what, compared to how this was last time, this was fucking luxurious. Oh, that was good.
Did you guys get much sleep?
A little bit. Not a great deal, but...
No.
No.
Oh, fuck.
First kite of the morning.
Yeah.
Come to pick over the bones.
This was the first night, guys. By the end of it, we're all gonna look like we're in our 70s.
We're going to look like King Arthur after a 14-day bender.
Oh, God!
So which one are we about to do? We're about to do this. Yeah, let's do that. Okay.
Let's crack on. So we're headed back up onto the main ridgeway from our brief and rather unsuccessful detour to East Isley. We started at around about 5, so we are going to see the White Horse of Uffington,
Right.
which is a genuinely ancient chalk carving in the landscape, sort of tuning with their dragon at Dragon Hill. Tell some stories, and just get in touch with the landscape a bit more. They're called Mother Dunch's buttocks because there was like there's a manor nearby, and the Dunch family used to live there, and
Mother Dunch.
yeah, so people used to.
She had a big ass.
She had a big ass. So I like to start. I'm starting to think about Mother Dunch as a sort of creator being, who shaped this landscape and then sort of lay down over the Thames, and then her bum's up there. It's a very rare and special thing, this place. We don't just have this beautiful ceremonial landscape. You also have a very interesting folk story about this place, which also carries a great deal of meaning. This hill here is a dragon. And this dragon, for a very long time, guarded the water of the springs. Made sure that people couldn't take too much of the gifts of the horse. Until one day, some say it was St. George himself, wanted to take water from the springs. And he no longer had any fear of the dragon and the horse because Christianity had come to the Vale. He came up and he stabbed it right through its back. Because it's the white dragon of England, its blood is white, its blood is the chalk. And so the story of this being the dragon slain by St. George when Christianity came here, and it all being over access to these springs down there, springs which are threatened by climate change and a lack of rain and so on, means that there's a great lesson to be learned. The aim should not be to slay the dragon, but to respect it. I was sort of hoping for good, really, wishing people well, wishing that people maybe understand nature a bit better and don't cause our own extinction. That would be good.
That last sort of hour and a half was just like, I've got my head
going
down.
up that hill, then walking across the top, and then coming down. That's what I've rubbed the fuck out of my toes.
Within sort of more pantheistic or sort of like non-monotheistic religions, the relationship between gods and the human isn't necessarily as distinct as that.
The gods that we understand, as we understand them, are part of the landscape and arise out of the landscape, and people as well are part of that landscape and arise out of it, and when they're dead they return to it. So it's kind of, by going out and spending like 3 days or 2 days doing something like this, you're kind of connecting to the landscape itself, to the gods that you would see as inhabiting that landscape.
The question isn't whether or not these beings are there. The question isn't that there is a them. The question is what is that them? The way in which Druidry, I think, kind of avoids that is by saying it's a form of natural philosophy. It's not a form of specifically a religion, because that is what the Druids were. In addition to their ritual functions, they were philosophers, and they were acknowledged as such in the ancient world.
%0 chance of precipitation, eh, Met Office? What the fuck is this? Fucking Met Office! couldn't predict the future if you fucking gave them a vat full of tea leaves and a supercomputer.
Supercomputer, right.
This was such a good call.
Yeah.
I've had some real good results with doing weather magic, because I never do it unless it's really necessary. My godfather's Catholic, and he's always viewed me as a personal failure on his part. That I've not only not converted to Catholicism, but
You turned out to be a sodomite.
I turned out to be a sodomite and a pagan. So generally all poor show all round.
So it's like Catholicism.
My sort of godparents' daughter was talking about how Cunningley is a sacred mountain, and you know it's got really powerful energy and stuff. And we all went out for a long walk up to the peak. It came up, you know, Jonathan being a Druid, and so this is obviously right up his alley. And then they all started taking the mickey out of me. And then we got to the top of the mountain. We were hoping for a view right down to the bay that you get, but it had clouded over. And they were like, "Oh, Jonathan, can't you do anything to sort this out?" And so I was like, "Well, fine then, I bloody well will." So I went off and had a word and asked the mountain spirits and I asked the sky, and I was like, "Look, it would be amazing to just get a quick brief view. That would be fabulous." So we were sort of stood around for a little bit longer talking and taking in the atmosphere. We were literally just about to leave, and like the clouds just sort of parted and we got a view right down to the sea, and then literally everyone looked at me with this sort of like, and I was just like, well.
What's left in there is pretty much ready to go on next step, and then we've got the slow burners drying out on the side.
It's warm, but I'm not like in pain. My eyes are a bit, so I've got smoky eyes.
That's good. You could do a makeup tutorial on YouTube.
Ah, smoky eye.
But what makes a saga a myth is not a particular narrative form. It's what it does for the society who tell it. And what myths do is they tell people where they come from, they tell people what they're about, they tell them the structure and origin of the landscape in which they live. Because the whole point of a myth is that it relates so much to real everyday life that people use it to think about things.
Oh.
So,
Kumbaya.
because where the smithy forms part of this wider sacred landscape that we're moving through. So whereas the White Horse is the sort of a symbol of the divine in the landscape, and Dragon Hill is a kind of an animate landscape feature, Wayland Smithy is a place for the dead. So it's important to kind of remember both sides of that boundary at the solstice. And so by going to places like Wayland Smithy, we can tune in with the other side and make contact and let them know that we still care and we still remember. the ancestors aren't gone. It's not like they've left it. They're still here. They're still part of this space. You know, the earth at the bottom of that mound, you know, will have mixed in with the bone and the, you know, fragments and stuff. Even though the bones are probably in a museum now, bits of them, you know, they're still part of this place. They were there for thousands of years. You can't take that away by taking some bones and putting them in a box.
It's just beautiful. You've just got the birds, trees, grass. Yeah. It's very nice.
There we go. I've got loads of drugs.
Wonderful.
Oh.
Having these random conversations with people, and they're all coming here with very similar kind of objectives in mind. Happy solstice! Oh wow, good spot.
That is amazing.
Oh, hail the sun! Hail the sun! Hail Odin! Freedom!
How's that? Oh, nice. Warming up as well.
I know. Oh. It was beautiful. There's never been a sunrise that I've been to at the solstice that was quite as clear and as unobscured by cloud as that. Yeah, it's always so special to be up. To welcome the new sun. What that bloke. To bring healing and fertility to this land and all lands. May all that we have gained remain long in our hearts and in our heads and in our hopes. I declare our pilgrimage here to the summer solstice at Avebury in 2018 closed and finished. There is no real distinction between ourselves and the world around us. We are all part of the landscape, we're all part of nature. We come from it and we return to it when we die. To be a member is to be a part of something. So if you remember something, you're not creating a connection, you're just returning to a state of connection that was already there. You're already a member. That is what pilgrimage is all about. It's about remembering.